So today we're talking about writing an equation giving a point and a slope. So if you look at this equation here, guys, remember m stands for the slope and b stands for the y-intercept. So remember, this is called slope-intercept form because you need a slope and a y-intercept to write an equation. Now the thing is, in these problems we're going to be given the slope but not the y-intercept. So if you look at example 1 here, we've got a slope of 2, and then we're given a point that's on this line, not the y-intercept. So we're going to actually have to solve it for that. Right? So we got 3 steps, and they're pretty easy. The first thing is you're using this form, so y equals mx plus b. Again, that's slope-intercept form. We're going to look at what we are given and kind of label it. So remember, we use the letter m for slope. So in this case, our m is 2. Then a point, remember, is always an x value and then a y value. Then I'm going to substitute these 3 things into my equation here. So y was -1, m was 3, sorry, it was 2. M was 2, sorry, and x was 3. Now I am putting the x in parentheses for 2 reasons. One, so that I can tell it's a separate number than the m, so I don't look at it as 23. The other thing is that right now m and x are being multiplied. So by putting this x in parentheses, it's already multiplying it by that m. Right, so then you'll notice we know everything in this equation except for the b, which is our y-intercept. So what we're going to do is solve for the b. So we're going to go ahead and multiply our m and our x. So we're going to multiply 2 times 3, which is 6. And then I need to get that positive 6 away from b. Since it's positive 6, we're going to do the opposite and subtract it. And we'll get that -7 is equal to b. So we just found our b value. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the b value we just found and the m that we were given at the very beginning, and we're going to write an equation. So we've got y equals mx plus b. I'm going to take the m out and put in the slope they told me at the beginning, which was 2. I'm going to take the b out and put in my y-intercept, which was my b that I found, which was -7. And that is my final answer. I want an equation. It's basically what we're saying, guys, is if I were to work backwards with this slope and this point on a graph, I'd get that my y-intercept was -7. And if I actually graphed the whole line, it would look like this. All right, so let's look at the next one. All right, so this one you'll notice your slope is a fraction, which really doesn't change it much. But remember, your slope is often a fraction because it's rise over run. All right, so we're going to treat it the same way, though. So y equals mx plus b. We're going to label the things we're given. So slope is m. Our x value is our first number, and our y value is the second number of our point. We're going to substitute these in. So y is 6, m is 2 over 5, x is 0, and we're looking for our b. Now again, we're going to multiply m and x, so 2 over 5 times 0 is still 0, because anything times 0 is 0. And just so you realize that it's like, yes, I wrote 0 plus b here. That makes you feel better to like subtract 0 on both sides or whatever to get rid of it, that's fine. But really, I didn't even have to write this step, because 0 plus b is still b, right? So then we found our b value, which is 6. We're going to take it and the slope from the top here, and we're going to write our equation. So remember, it's y equals mx plus b, that's slope-intercept form. So we're going to put it in our slope, which was 2/5, and our b, which is 6. Make sure your equation should always have the letters x and y in it, because you're able to actually plug in values for x and get out the y values, or plug in values for y and solve for the x values. That's the whole point of this equation, is that you can find other points on the line. All right, and then our last one is a little trickier, but it's pretty much the same steps. So we're still starting with our same slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. We still know that the slope is m and that our point is an x and then a y. We're going to substitute those in. Now the thing is, this one, I have to actually deal with this fraction. It's not like times 0 where it's all automatically going to be 0. So I actually have to deal with this. Now, if you're working with a calculator, you can actually use it to do this. So remember, guys, fractions are just another way to write division. So this fraction actually means 2 divided by 5. That's what that fraction means. And then I'm taking that and multiplying it by -4. All right, so if you actually type this in your calculator, that's doing this 2/5 times -4. That's actually multiplying your m and your x. So if I multiply that, I'm going to get -1.6. So just so you can see where that came from. And that's still plus b. So I'm still solving for the b like I was before. So since that's a -1.6, I'm going to end up adding it on both sides. So I'll get 2.6 equals b. And I'm going to take my b value and my m from up here. And I'm going to write my equation. So I've got y equals my slope, which was 2/5, and my b value, which was 2.6. Now, a lot of times your b value, guys, they'll leave them as a decimal because it's easier to graph it that way. If they want you to put it as a fraction, you could actually make this into a fraction, but it's kind of unnecessary unless they ask you to. So just a reminder, like 2.6, if I wanted to make it a fraction, that is 2 and 6 over the place value the 6 is in, which is 10. You could make that a improper fraction and all that if you wanted. That would be 26/10, and you could simplify it to 13/5. So you could have, instead of 2.6, you could put 13/5 instead. So if this was multiple choice or something and it was a fraction, you could figure that out. All right, so then what I want you to do is to pause the video. There are 2 problems I want you to try. So here's your first one. I want you to pause it, try it, and then unpause it to go over it. All right, so now that you've tried it, we're going to do our formula here. Remember, slope is our m, a point is an x and a y. We're going to substitute them in. All right. So when I work out 1/3 times 9, that's actually going to give me 3. And then I'm going to end up subtracting 3 on both sides to get -7. But remember, this is not my final answer. So I'm going to take my slope-intercept form. I'm going to use the slope from the beginning and the b I just found to write my equation. So my final answer is going to be y equals 1/3 x minus 7. And the last one, so I've got the same thing. So I want you to try it and then unpause it to see if you did it right. So once you've tried it, remember you're using this formula. You're given the m, the x, and the y. We're going to substitute in what we know. So if I do 3 divided by 4 times -7, I'm going to get -5.25. Then I'm going to just solve for the b by adding 5.25 on both sides. So I'll get 5.25 is equal to b. Then I'm going to take the b value and the m from the beginning to write my equation. So I'll get y equals 3/4 x plus 5.25. Right, so just remember, guys, the decimals are fine. If it asked you to, you could make that into a fraction, but unless they specifically ask for it as a fraction, you do not have to.